everyone. This is Buna Rich, making my world famous Buna Tuna. I think I shall start with, and no chuckling, no giggling, please. This is very serious shit. So, I am going to start with an onion. And the way I start with the onion is I cut off both ends, thusly. Then, with a knife, I score across the side, thusly. Then, I take the top layer of the onion and I remove it. And I then will take a wrapper, newspaper wrapper, and put the onion in there, tie it off, and put it in the garbage so it doesn't stink up the kitchen. So, here we have our key ingredient, our first ingredient, a white onion. And you'll know how clever I am because rather than doing a lot of chopping, you'll notice that I'm making fairly deep cuts in the onion. And then I'll do it again the other direction. Okay, now, watch what happens now. Rather than having to do a lot of chopping, I very gently slice. And I think I'm going to do it 3 times. Which is probably maybe too much onion, if there's such a thing.
So you don't.
When I do this,
So you don't have tears.
when I do this, I get very emotional. I don't know what happens, but I think of my lovely 2 grandchildren, little Alana and not so little Caden. And it brings tears to my eyes. Okay, now, we don't want to over chop, nor do we want to under chop. So this right now, I think, represents just about a perfect consistency, chop-wise, for the onion portion of Rich's Buna. And I will put them in here. And I'm going to put some more in there. And I think that, well, what the heck. This will be a little bit heavy of the onions.
You can edit it out.
Okay. Now, step number 2 is going to be celery. And what I have here is Safeway Signature celery hearts. And I will take 1, 2, 3, cut off the ends. And as a word of caution, you may not want to try this at home because this is a big, nasty knife. Okay, now, like what I did with the onion, I do a similar thing with the celery, which I think is very clever. is I will then cut it into strips like this, thusly. And let's do that. And now that I have it, and I noticed that the celery is getting a little bit light, quantity-wise, and I'm not sure why. It could be because I'm not sure. Huh, no. Let's go. Okay. And what I try to do is have fairly equal quantities of chopped onion and chopped celery. Even though today's batch is going to be a little bit heavy on the onions, but I don't mind. I like onions. Onions like me. Which is kind of interesting. It reminds me of a story. I was once married to an onion. A red onion, who was very nice. But she left me because she apparently was at the store and met a dill pickle. And they felt that their relationship was more important than mine with the red onion. I still miss her to this day. And ever since that day, I don't eat dill pickles because I kind of resent them secretly. It does bring some emotion and tears because I miss Old Red. But I know that she's probably dried out in some trash heap by now, so it gives me very minor satisfaction. Oh, Red, I miss you. Let me get back here. Okay, now I've done my It's too bad I don't have one of those gizmos that allows me to just chop easily and quickly, but that looks pretty good. It's just about the size and consistency that I'm looking for. Okay, now I'll scoot this a little bit forward. In goes the celery. Okay, so now I have 2 out of the 3 ingredients. Last but not least, in terms of the actual contents, is going to be not sweet pickles, but they're called sweet gherkins. Gherkin pickles. And the advantage of gherkins is that they're much crunchier than a standard sweet pickle that you would find at the store. So my advice, if you want to do this properly, I would buy gherkins. And not only that, but gherkins will make you sneeze, which is another advantage for those of you that like to sneeze. But I'm probably, you have to be careful. People will lose fingers doing this occasionally. And all too often they will not realize they lost the finger, and the finger then becomes part of the Buna, and it will add a very odd taste and consistency to the Buna Tuna. A Buna Tuna. Yo, Buna, what you doing, Tuna? No, Buna, I ain't no tuna. Buna Tuna. Buna Tuna. Luna, as in the Muna. Ooh, not to be confused with Mona, who works at Safeway. Okay, I'm chopping the gherkins that have the same appearance of sweet pickles.
So I have a question. How did you get this ingredients for this tuna sandwich?
I believe that I learned it from my mother. May she rest in peace. Lulu Jackson, very nice woman who was really a very good cook. And this is how she would make her Buna, even though growing up we actually called it tuna. But in this day and age, I think Buna Tuna, Buna, a Buna, is much more appropriate. I'm not sure why. This takes a little bit more work in terms of chopping. We want to make sure it's nicely chopped. Okay. Looking good. No big pieces. Okay. It's now time for the pickles to enter the mix. And we now have onions, celery, and sweet gherkins. Now it's time to get down to business. I have a can of Buna, aka tuna, and it is American tuna. It is pole and line trolled cod, which means they don't use nets, so they don't hurt any dolphins or porpoises. I think they do it on purpose. That's my little humor that I get from my wife, Deborah Buna. And this is wild albacore tuna. This is right around $8 a can. Sometimes I can't get my finger under there, so what I do is I take a little screwdriver and I use that to assist in opening the can. Because you have to be careful because the edges are very sharp on these lids. I put the lid back on temporarily. I go over to the sink because I don't want all that Buna juice to interfere with my Buna Tuna. And there it goes. It's very nice tuna, by the way. Okay. Now, for the fun part. I have to break up the tuna into much smaller pieces so it then blends in with the other ingredients. And as I do so, then I kind of then very gently mix everything together. Because if you don't do it gently, it will affect the taste. And you'll notice that there's probably more vegetables than tuna. Buna Tuna. Buna. Yo, Buna. Yo, Buna. Yeah, Buna. Show me some Buna Tuna. Yeah. Okay, now it's time for the magic to happen. So I start, and one of my secrets, and actually this I learned myself, is I will take 2 pretty good sized dollops of sour cream and put them in. And then I use massive quantities of best food mayonnaise. And I'm getting low on mayo. But being the person I am, I do have inventory. At any given time, I will maintain an inventory level of 3 64-ounce containers of mayonnaise. Because I like mayonnaise and I use it quite often. So we pretty much have emptied that. Oh, by coincidence, I just happen to have another container handy. And now we're going to need to mix all these wonderful ingredients. It's interesting because I've been making this for many years, and I remember I hosted a luncheon with Julia Childs, who's a world famous chef, and I served her my Buna Tuna, and she said it was the best that she's ever had. Now, we need a little seasoning. What I choose to use is Lowry's seasoning salt. But I don't want to overdo it. So I'll sprinkle about that much. Whoops. Then ground pepper. And you don't have to be shy or stingy with the pepper, because when the Buna becomes ripe, and I won't say it goes bad, but it will ripen over 6-7 days. And it gets really, really ripe to the point where you need goggles and nose plugs to eat it. And I need a dollop more mayo. Nothing worse than a dry sandwich. More? No. Do I need more? I don't know. I think we're pretty good right there. when I cook, it's interesting. My wife always cooks by recipe and by timer. She is. But when I cook, I use my senses. My nose, my eyes, and my ears. Ah. And my nose knows that that's exactly the way it's supposed to be. I'm going to rinse my hands. I am going to hopefully find Tupperware. And actually, it's not Tupperware, it's Rubbermaid wannabe Tupperware. And for the conclusion of this preparation, I shall put it into this container. And what I'll do is I will seal the container, and in the backyard I've dug a small pit. It's about 3 or 4 feet deep, a little bit larger than this container. And then I'll take the Buna and bury it for 10 days to help accelerate the aging process. Because you want well-aged, stinky Buna Tuna. And I shall put the lid on my tuna, get the air out. I will take this, and I have a special spot where I keep my Buna, and it's right there. And voila!